Hello, this is Miss Andrea, and today I have a special guest. This is my friend Delana, who homeschooled her kids around the same time I homeschooled mine. She has one child a little bit younger, but we're both at this point veteran homeschoolers. So I would just like to talk with Delana today about homeschooling your kids while working a full-time job. So, Delana, you homeschooled your kids while working a full-time job. Could you tell us a little bit about how that worked?
Hi, everyone. As Andrea mentioned, I'm Delana from the Atlanta, Georgia area. And when I first started homeschooling my children, my son was in ninth grade in high school, and my youngest child was starting third grade, if I remember correctly, right around there.
Yeah.
And homeschooling was very interesting because with my older child, he really was a challenge and wanted to push the boundaries. Okay. But I figured he was struggling in public school, in high school. And my motto was I can't do any worse than what the public school system at that time was offering my child. And so with Andrea's help, because we had met shortly before then, if I remember correctly.
No, shortly after, another family helped you get started homeschooling.
Oh, that is right.
Hmm.
And so shortly thereafter, Andrea and I met, and I will tell you, she was a godsend because she knew all the stuff that I needed to be doing with my kids that I had no idea that I needed to be doing.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, So, as I mentioned, with my oldest child, he was more of a challenge to homeschool. And I was actually working a full time job in corporate America, which made it so I was gone out of the house at least 3 days a week. And, I still needed to make sure that my child was educated. Okay.
So before you move on and tell us the rest of the story, you said you were out of the house 3 days a week while working a full-time job. How did that happen?
Um, I had already been working in corporate America and we were allowed to work a couple of days remotely. So that made it so I was in the office 3 days, but I was actually home 2 days.
Okay.
Okay. And, so it meant that I really had to have a detailed schedule for my son and be able to check his schoolwork, his progression. Thank God for the internet because Andrea set up some special websites for my son and helped put a curriculum together. And I could easily monitor that even when I was not in the same um, building that he was in because it was all electronic.
So what I did for Delana was I pulled together a syllabus each year, and then through a series of, I think, Google website pages and Google Docs, I set up a system so that when he logged on in the morning, he had his own page on the internet to go to, and he would know what he had to do next. And then he would do that thing, and then he would email the results to his mother. So I set it up so, this is today's date. This is what you do. When you're done, you email either the completed test, you screenshot it, or you write the essay, or you send the proof of doing that online math page back
Correct.
to your mother so that she had an email account full of just all the work he had handed in. And that's just something that I do for people.
And Andrea had it set up where it was detailed for each and every class that we actually had. Um, it went from your English subjects all the way through science. We were able to pull at that time a lot of the classes that were free on the internet.
There used
Um,
to be so much.
Yes, we used at that point we were able to use Khan Academy.
Mhm.
Um, oh my gosh, I can't remember who.
Hippocampus, which is
Yeah,
different now.
and we used an online science program that actually had the test and
We used a
um
lot of uh the major textbook publisher used to publish
yes,
all their tests online. Used
yeah,
to. Now we have to be more creative.
we do. So, that was a pretty much a 4-year process with my son. Um, and a couple years after he had started, then my youngest child actually started homeschooling, and they were a bit easier to homeschool, mainly because it didn't push the boundaries as much, you know. And we did pretty much the same thing. Went through and created a syllabus for each and every class online, and at that time, I was still working in corporate America. Okay, and my schedule was a little bit different at that time because my youngest child played competitive basketball. So we were actually on the road an awful lot. And homeschooling a child who is playing a competitive sport made it a lot easier for a single parent and a parent who was working in corporate America and homeschooling, okay, to be able to get the education down because as we were traveling to many of the basketball games that were, they could have been anywhere from 2 hours away to 6 hours away, depending upon where the game was, where the tournament was. So my child was able to pack up all of their schoolwork and take their schoolwork on the road. So it was very good in allowing us to be able to homeschool and yet zero in on the activities or the interest that my child had because they were both my children were totally different. One was into sports, the other one was
It was
more
tech.
into
It was light sound tech.
yes, and entrepreneurs,
Yes, heavily
say
into
that word.
entrepreneurship.
That word.
Still is, yes.
Compared to how we were setting up my children's program for each and every day, what are you finding that most parents are doing nowadays?
Well, we don't have as many free resources online that we had. How long ago? 5 years
About 5
ago.
years ago, yes.
Um, but there are low cost resources, and some of the low cost resources got better. For example, Time for Learning now goes all the way through 12th grade, and it's not as babyish as it used to be. So kids, used to want to tap out of that at 5th grade, and now they'll do it much longer. Khan Academy has expanded their offerings greatly, and that's very helpful. Um, we have Owl, Purdue Owl, which gets us through a lot of English. We have the people who make No Fear Shakespeare, Spark Notes,
Okay.
cheating. We have the Spark Notes series, which gives you all your literature questions and answers, and helps you break down synopsises and things like that.
And we didn't have that one
We
when
did,
I
but it wasn't nearly as, they didn't have the library.
okay.
By then it was mostly just Shakespeare. And so now we have a full library of everything classic, and it's so easy to break down and even for the parent to discuss literature with the kids, because the parent has a cheat sheet where they can go and update their knowledge of a novel and then have an intelligent discussion with a child. So what I do now that's different from what I did then, because then I just like strung together a series of free websites and said, I'd map out the whole year, day 1 through day 180, because that's how many days we do school. And I would just look at the textbook, map it out for the year. And I do this all takes me like a couple of days per class to do this. And I just do day 1 through 180. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do all the way through. So back then I was stringing together free websites. You know, whatever one worked best for the kid, and then telling them what assignments and how to submit those assignments back to the parent. Now I mostly use Khan Academy for everything.
Okay.
I use Purdue OWL for upperclassmen. A resource that we loved for your younger child is now kind of fading away. And remember the critical thinking workbooks?
Yes.
I still try to get my hands on the Latin and Greek roots when it's getting close to SAT time. But they're not publishing like they used to.
Oh, wow. I wonder if they'll maybe put them
It
online.
seems like they might be rewriting them all.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. So yeah, mostly Khan Academy with a few helpers like Spark Notes. And then what I do is I supplement everything with videos and activities, because I don't just want them on Khan Academy, watch the videos, answer the questions. You're not getting the depth of understanding you need there. And a lot of people who think that Khan Academy is going to be their homeschooling curriculum usually fall out of love with it because the child gets bored. If you're going to use Khan Academy as a curriculum, which I do for many subjects, I also go onto YouTube and I pull more fun videos, because I mean, Salman Khan does a great job, but he's kind of dry. And I pull more interesting videos. I pull documentaries. I pull literature, explanations, and all of that from more animated educational video creators. And I fold that in. And then I do some project-based things. I want them to write papers and I want them to do projects.
Okay.
And so that's how I've altered it to make to lean on Khan Academy a little. And I always have my eye open for new things that are coming up, but they've just done such a good job. But I supplement heavily to get them more interactive into it.
Okay. And Andrea, what do you recommend that parents use for like science curriculums?
For science, ha 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 ha. Yes, thank you for asking, because I also do use a textbook. And this is in another video of mine. This is everything you need to ace whatever subject in one big fat notebook. This happens to be the world history book. This is for middle schoolers. And so for middle schoolers, for science, and I have it on my Kindle, so I can't show it to you. I have every one of these books, but this is the only one I have in hand. The rest are on my Kindle. I follow the outline of that. So I go to whatever chapter we're at, and I open the text, and I say, okay, what are we studying this week? And then I go on YouTube and I pull videos to further explain, because this is literally just a study guide. And this is 3 years worth of study guide. This is all of middle school. This is all of middle school world history. Okay.
So we shouldn't freak out when we see that book and be like, oh my God.
This is a study guide. It's 3 years. It's 3 years. So I go to the chapter I'm working on with the child. I go onto YouTube. I pull videos explaining the things. And then I give them a project to do, a science project or a documentary, or I've done experiments and stuff like that. The way I work this, if you know about my larger curriculum, everything I do is history based. I skip around in the science book to make sure that whatever we're studying in history, also whatever relates to that area in science, especially for middle school. That's what I do. When we get to the upper grades for science, I'm a bit of a meanie because I go right to college curriculum. Like, why waste their time and give them half truths? I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but I remember having this experience, and I'm sure everyone I know who was into science in high school had this experience. They did the hardest science classes they could in high school, and then they get to 12th grade and say, "I'm going to do AP science." And the first day, the teacher says, "Everything you've been taught in science to this date is a lie." Why waste their time? Let's just go right to the college texts. So I use online college courses for science, and then I make sure that they can find science labs within the community.
Okay.
Because science labs are so important.
Yes, they are. That was the
Mhm.
one thing that my youngest child loved about homeschooling because um they got to, dissect everything under the sun that you could possibly,
Mhm.
dissect,
Mhm.
and even got to do chemistry experiments.
Mhm.
And
And you just need to know your local homeschool community and what's available, because here where we live, there's an environmental heritage center not too far away in one direction, and then in the other direction is Atlanta with all the science museums there.
correct.
And then there are also homeschoolers who just specialize in science, who like have a laboratory in their basement.
And
So
then
you
there's
don't have to have a laboratory in your basement.
right, and then there's programs
Mhm.
um that you can actually utilize where they'll do lab intensives. And
That traveling program retired.
oh, they did?
They retired.
Oh my
So
god,
that's why I
that,
didn't mention them.
that was so awesome.
Uh-huh. That traveling science program retired. But that's another reason why when I finish building my homeschool center, we will have labs. We will
Okay.
have a laboratory for kids to come and do their science outside of their parents' kitchen.
Yes.
Because
You know,
that no one wants that.
yeah, I didn't want that,
No one wants it in their kitchen. No one wants it in their basement. No one wants it near their water heater.
Exactly.
So Delana, what would you say to parents who want to homeschool? Because right now, during COVID, a lot of parents want to homeschool and a lot of parents need to homeschool. But a lot of parents also have to work. What would you say to people who want to homeschool because of COVID? Whether they want to homeschool short term or whether they just want to say, you know what, let's just homeschool all the way through.
Mhm.
What would you say to them right now based on your experiences as a working homeschool parent?
I would say, take a look at your family dynamics, okay, first off, and see if it's something that not only will work for you as a parent and not cause you too much anxiety, but also is that going to be the best thing for your child or your children? Because some children, really do need the interaction every day with other children, even though we don't want them out there, being with other children. We also want to make sure that um, if they thrive on interaction and just being around other people, that we don't pull them back too far and cause anxiety and depression. Okay.
If you're going to do it, you better find an outlet.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely. Okay. Um, and so talk it over, and I'm gonna say as a as a family unit, the parents with the child or the children, that are interested in homeschooling. Um, get with a knowledgeable person, as Andrea is. She's been in this realm for many, many years. So, you can always reach out to her. She'll leave her information at the end.
They,
But
they can ask me any question in the comments, and
okay,
I usually answer them directly, and I often make a video based on their question.
perfect.
Mhm.
But find those local resources. And then if at all possible, if you are working, try to team up with family household, either maybe somebody in your church group, maybe in your community, because you will really be surprised on, it could be somebody 10 doors down in your subdivision who also homeschools. Try partnering with those families, because maybe they're in the same boat where they're only able to be with their children for the homeschooling, a couple days of work, a couple days a week, because they too have to go in the office. So maybe you guys can partner. Okay. Another thing that you can do, and I've heard families do this, is they actually have somebody come in, watch the children during the day. Okay. And mom and dad come home, or mom or dad come home after, they work, and that's when they start the homeschooling process.
Yeah, my daughter has tutored homeschoolers in the past, and the last one was a high school student. So he was able to monitor himself for the most part. But they had her come in 3 full days a week, I think 9 to 3, to make sure that he paced through all his schoolwork and got it done and understood everything.
Mhm.
And they both worked full time. And in the evenings, they would just check the work. So
Yeah.
if you can afford a tutor, great. If you can afford maybe with another family to share a tutor, that would be great too.
So, uh, um, so those are my recommendations.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, and one more thing about what you just said. It is not uncommon for a family member, a grandparent, and even for like younger kids under middle school, there are daycare centers where your child could literally go to daycare during the day and just bring their some of their work with them and do it there. And then when they come home at night, you guys homeschool. So it's like kind of like evening schooling.
Correct, because what's really good about homeschooling is you don't just have to put your child in school from, say, 8 to 2 or 8 to 4, whatever the typical public school um, educational hours are. Okay, if you guys need to do your school hours from, 4 to 8 in the evening,
Let them
then
sleep in.
let them sleep in, and or if you need to do them on the weekend. Okay. With my child playing competitive basketball, we did homeschool whenever we could fit it in. We pretty much schooled all year long in some way, shape, or form, because I didn't want there to be a lapse in learning.
You didn't
Okay.
want that summer fallback.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. So during the summer, my child loved to read. Not quite
Mhm.
sure exactly where they got that
Your
from.
child did math and reading all
Yeah.
summer. And matter of fact, I recommend that for any child anywhere, homeschooled or not.
You know,
Even if it's math they already know, just warm
yeah.
up.
Just keep the brain functioning and learning. So just fit your homeschooling into what works best for your family, and know that what you do as a family may look totally different than somebody else in your community. And it's not right or wrong, it's just different.
Very important thing. Very important thing to understand. So Delana is also my friend. We met through homeschooling and we've gotten close over the years. Uh, she's my sister now. It is what it is. And she's also my realtor. So if you live in the greater Atlanta area and you want a realtor, especially if you're building a new house, you want her. Trust me, because those builders be trying stuff. And she's just really good at working with builders. She has relationships with builders, and she's just really good at making sure that people who buy new homes don't fall into a lot of the traps that new home home buyers fall into. So I will leave her website down below. So,
Deandra.
any last words, Delana?
Yes, thank you everybody for taking the time out of your day or your evening to watch this awesome video that Miss Andrea and I have put together for you on homeschooling. And I hope that you continue to check out what she has to offer through the homeschool community. Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time.